Today starts the big ones. I'm going to do 30-minute deep dives. Today, I'm going to talk about workplace toxicity and how we can apply the Hávamál in daily practice. So, let's dig in, shall we? I always do that because it's a tribute to Adam Nawu. I know he caught a lot of flack, but without Adam Nawu, y'all wouldn't have Urban Norseman. I know there's not a lot, but there's a few of you that enjoy my videos, so he's a reason why I do a lot of this stuff on YouTube, period, or TikTok, or wherever you may find me. So let's talk about this for a second, and these are going to be candid talks because let's keep it real. All social media, TikTok, there's always gurus or somebody telling you how to practice or whatever. So these are going to be candid talks where I'm going to just try to take philosophy and from the Hávamál and the sagas and try to apply it like I was taught as a child. So, not rambling too much. Here we go. So, you know what? We'll do it like this. I'll do it like, kind of like a group therapy, if you will. So, I'll start by saying how not paying attention to everything I was taught in the Norse philosophy has led me down some roads that probably shouldn't have went down, or I should have been more vigilant. And one of them is just over trust at work, because I feel like we spend a lot of time with the people at work. A lot of us, it could be 8, 9, 10, even 12 hours a day. And then over time, you start to build these relationships I don't know. A relationship doesn't sound like a good word for it, but I guess in light of, trying to explain it, we have these little mini relationships that we have at work. So, friendships, acquaintance, whatever you want to call it. So overtrust is that you think that these people will have your back and your best interest, and a lot of times I mean, and most of us probably know that ain't the case. So that kind of goes back to the Hávamál and be wary of the doors that you enter. If y'all hear anything wild, it's just the dogs. Two male Malinois trying to be the alpha, and they groan and gripe at each other all day. so that I don't have so many cuts, I'll just keep it in, and we'll just deal with the barking together. But anyway, back to what I was saying. We start to develop these mini relationships with people at work, and we trust them, their word, and this and that, and the third. Sometimes you even develop relationships outside of work with these same people. And I've done that, and I'm guilty, so I'm not preaching or harping. I'm telling y'all, I've done it. I've been down that road. I've been burnt, and more than once. There's the adage, fool me once, fool me twice. Well, I've been down that whole thing, so it's shame on me, right? But anyway, instances of trusting people, and then you go on vacation or you're out for a few days, and you find out real quick, course, people are going to tell you what people said or done while you're away because they like to stir the pot. So, you know, you have to trust. You can't trust people like that either. So sometimes you have to take everything that everybody says in an office, a work site, what it may be, with a grain of salt. These people do not care about you. They will easily discard you as fast as, you know, snapping your finger. So I've done that, and, you know, take an instance. We share a building with a ton of crews. It probably shouldn't be like that, but it is. And I'm not going to say names in this because I don't want to throw names out there, but I'll just tell you what my experience was. I had a room that I was trying to keep certain tools in that I knew would not get lost, because I don't like to go to do a project or something and tools aren't there because somebody's done took them and dropped them. Not stole them, but they'll take them and misplace them, yada 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 yada. Well, I locked this one room up out of the whole building just so we could, you know, have a space. And somebody that I trusted, I put a lot of trust in this person. The first day I'm gone, they just give the code out. Yeah. So I get back to work, the door's wide open, and I'm asking. Of course, I wasn't told the truth of why the person got the code, but I know what happened. And I even confronted one of the people that went in the room that wanted the code, and I'm like, did I give you the, no, I don't know, I don't think I know it. So they lied knowing that they had it, then lied about opening the room. Okay, so my trust in that person, it went, you know, it wasn't completely gone, because, you know, I'm like, okay, maybe it's a circumstance or whatever, yada yada yada. So another instance is I got blinded and I overtrusted, and it just, you know, it didn't matter. No matter what I did, every time I turned around, the same person would revert back to helping whatever. And then it became like gossip. It went from stuff like that to just right out gossip. And I pick on my wife, because she says, she talks about whatever's going on at work, and I'm like, yeah, don't let the cackling hens get you in trouble. And that's because people are just, you know, cackling and want to keep drama moving and keep driving the drama meal or whatever. You want to be cautious when and thinking that everybody that's laughing with you isn't laughing behind you, or, you know, laughing at you behind your back. And, you know, there's a difference in like break room banter, and that's fine. You know, I've worked in all kinds of different fields. I've worked retail, construction, I've worked corporate, I've worked, you know, about you name it, I've worked in about every field there is. And just trying to, like sports, and let me tell you, football, I coach football, and that's probably one of the most toxic environments I've ever been in. You would think the office would be, but no. Football, yeah, football's pretty bad. So they'll act like you're friends, and no matter what, every time that something happens, and you'll find out who real quick, like when you're standing in front of the man, and you find out that some of these people you call friends have actually just turned their back on you and told on you, or even made up lies. I've even had that happen. I was blamed for being a ringleader of some stuff at work too, and I was just like, I'm shocked. I was eating oatmeal for breakfast, and I got blamed for being a ringleader. So over trust, it is something to be mindful of. And in the Hávamál, it does talk about being, you know, having a little bit too much trust. And then, you know, in the Hávamál it mentions a lie for a lie. So basically, you know, you almost have to, what I like to call it is be professionally polite. That's what I call it. You know, you don't have to go out of your way to be overly nice and good mornings and ha-has and kikis or whatever. But you know, you have a job, you have a family to take care of. So the best thing to do is be professionally polite. Good morning, how are you? Move on your way. We say, do your 8 and hit the gate. You know, do enough and socialize just enough to get through your day. You know, I almost would be and trust people more if they would just be open, you know, like open with me and say, you know, I really don't care for you. You know, not everybody's personality is meant to mix and match. And that goes to say too, don't be deceitful. Don't make like you're being somebody's friend and just say all the things that you think that they want to hear, just so that you can, you know, advance or whatever. You know, take ownership of being professionally polite. You'll go a long ways with that too. I mean, being professionally polite, that doesn't necessarily mean saying, you know, I want to go and have a beer with you, or, you know, ice cream after work or something like that. It just pretty much, you know, it's kind of like, you know, we're both here doing the same thing. Now, I will tell you this, and I've done this, and sometimes it's been hard. It's not easy to live by that stanza 127 where it says, you know, when you see evil, recognize it and give it no truce. And that's in, you know, stanza 127 basically. And look, guys, I am paraphrasing. I'm not sitting here with the Hávamál in front of me. I just know things that I've remembered and been taught throughout my life. So 127 is basically, you know, don't give truce to your enemies, and, you know, when you see evil, you call it out. And that too kind of leads in a segue to, you know, some things that happened in with some government agencies and stuff like that. People are calling it out, you know, and evil should be called out. If you do something evil, people should say something. You should be able to say something. But I'm beginning to worry that, you know, as we move along, some of those freedoms may be scrunched just a little bit. But keep in mind, don't give truce to enemies, because if they're going to be your enemy, they need to stay where they're in. And Kevin Gates says it a lot. If you know who he is, he'll say, you know, when they paint you a picture, don't let them paint you another picture. You know, when they've painted that picture, it's already on the canvas. There's no erasing it and making it better. Now, what you can do in this situation, in a work situation, is when you see it, you start to document. And, you know, I was world's worst about that. And I'm not perfect now, but let me tell you, it does make a difference if you start to document everything that happens to you at work. When you see, like, you know, there's so many things that I need to document, but where I work, I'm not sure, you know, like when I go to unload this stuff, I'm going to be out. You know, there's not going to be a, you know, I'm sure, you know, there'll be other people going out, but they're going to want to get rid of me quickly. But document it, that way you have it. That don't mean every time you see something, document it and turn it in. What I like to say is you put it under your hat. Take it and put it under your hat. What I ended up having to do is learn how to be a guest at that hall, but not a servant to their drama. Like, I'll go to work, and I had to learn that when they start to talk and all that, I leave the area and find something else to do. There's always something to do at a job. Believe me, you can go find something else to do. You do not have to lower your honor, you know, to be a part of the group. And that's, that goes there, another one that I was, asked several times, why don't you go out there and talk with the guys in the yard and this and that? And it's like, well, one, in my head, I'm going, well, one, I don't have anybody out there I really like. And then two, there are people that I like, but now I don't trust as openly as I used to. So I don't really communicate with people like that, like I used to back in when I first started this job. Just have a certain level of skepticism with every person that you encounter. That is one of the Norse philosophies that I believe that we all could benefit from. I don't even care if you're Christian, whatever. You can benefit from having a certain level of skepticism. I think it should be stanza 84, 90, 91, and 118. Be careful of sweet tongues, like they talk good or whatever. Be careful how, they talk a good game and trying to make you feel like you're a part of the group and this and that. Because they will talk, they'll try to say that you're a part of the group and you're a buddy and you're a friend and this and that. But when it comes back down to it, they're just trying to gather information on you to put under their hat. So you have to, I always tell everybody, don't talk about my front porch unless your front porch is clean. Kind of goes back to the adage of people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, kind of deal. Make sure your face and everything is clean before you start giving up information. And it kind of goes back to a saying my daddy used to say it a lot. He'd say, if you wouldn't steal with them, you don't trust to go and do a crime with them. Don't give them any information on you. They'll be the first ones to tell on you at the last minute. So be mindful of that. In all, I hear more like I think we carry baggage from work to home, but you have to have that wisdom in you and the philosophy to say, you know what, I'm going to check it at the door. And another thing, like my grandmother used to do, she would, it's weird, but some older Norwegian people had a philosophy of they wouldn't comb their hair at night inside the house. So like anytime she was out, she didn't want to comb her hair because the hair falls out, it falls on the ground. But whatever you've absorbed into your hair while you're out in the world, you're just basically leaving it in your house. And so she would always comb her hair outside, and that would keep, in the philosophy of it, keeps the bad things away. And it also goes with, trusting people online. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do. I always make sure that, I give everybody the opportunity, and we all know that the Norse community has its share of grifters in the on the social media front. There's some really good ones out there, and I'm not going to trash anybody. That's not my forte. I am just trying to keep the skaldic position that I feel like has been afforded to me. I'm not calling myself, like I said, I had a series of videos with Jason Savage from How to Heathen about Gothies, what they are, where they come from, who are, all that stuff. We went through a bunch of research on it. He has a ton more of videos that he has coming out. I think for me, I don't want to beat a dead horse with a stick. So he has a ton more maybe to come out. I don't know. I know he hasn't. I think he released one yesterday that still has some Goethe stuff. There is a ton of information, and you could probably go on for months. You know, with the Goethe and what is a Goethe and the operations of it and everything. But my primary goal was kind of a skaldic role. You know, that's why I say, you know, I'm a modern skald, because I'm trying to keep the philosophy alive in the modern world. I'm not asking everybody to dress up and play, you know, whatever, cosplay or whatever. Now, I'm not beyond that. I love going to the festivals and stuff and seeing the old garbs and the tunics. I keep telling my wife I need to order some tunics, and I was hoping one day that Grimfrost would sponsor the channel. You know, I do wear a lot of their stuff, but there again, I'm still building. I'm gaining momentum, but I also, you know, I'm very cautious about what I put out. So I try to make sure that everything that I put out is as authentic and as proper as that I can make it. I did start out my journey trying to express. I kind of got in that AI slop, kind of. And then I kind of backed out of that. And then I started liking the, like doing edits of TV shows and whatnot. And I was like, I kind of like it. I got a ton of views for it, but it just wasn't like, I felt like there was something missing. And then it was like, well, you know, I made one video where I was talking about something, and it got, you know, it got some good reactions, and you know, so I was like, well, maybe I need to use the old storytelling, which is a skaldic. I don't have poems per se, because, you know, they kind of told their stories in a poem way, but I feel like the modern, we need to evolve. And a lot of people, you know, like they call it reconstructionist and all this stuff. You know, it is what it is. I know everything's not going to be exactly how it was, because we don't know. And there's so many stories, just, you know, like my grandmother said, she would say, you know, she would teach me what she was taught. But there again, you know, you got to take it and interpret it how you can, because you know, they, you know, like it's telling somebody something, and they tell somebody something, and then they tell somebody something. By the time it gets back to you, it sounds like 4 different stories. So just keep that in mind. And so my way of telling it isn't going to be the way of somebody else's, and then it's going to be a way, you know, this and that. It is just, it isn't. But I will not try to just give you something that I was sitting in home and was like, oh, I'm going to think this up, and, you know, I'm going to give you something that was handed down. I feel like, you know, I owe that to my ancestors to hand it down, because my grandmother was a storyteller, and I would like to hand that down, because I don't want it to go away and die out. And I know, you know, every time I post a video, I get flack from the Christian community. I get flack from, like I said in my yesterday's vlog, I get flack from both sides. But, you know, and there goes my clock. That's the trouble of liking clocks. You got to put up with the noise. Yeah, so I mean, I try to, you know, I try to give you guys everything that I've been taught. And I decided to start doing these vlogs, and now longer vlogs, because sometimes it's easier just to kind of like let it out, you know, and see what happens. Pay attention to your, you know, everybody. When you walk in that door, make sure you're paying attention to what's around you. Make sure you're, you know, you don't know what person in that office is jealous of something, or they just woke up that morning and they don't like you, or they don't like the shade of your skin, or they don't like this or that. Best thing to do is just keep a level head, and you know, don't give out a bunch of information. That's another thing in the Hávamál talks about. Don't be the loudest one in the room. You know, it's okay. It's okay to be silent. You don't owe anybody to talk to them, other than, like I said, professionally polite. And just be mindful of who you keep in your circle and what you let in here. And the reason I have that tattooed on my head is peligroso, and that is dangerous in Spanish. And it means for me to see it and remind myself that my brain can be very dangerous to myself, not to anybody else or anything. It could be just dangerous to myself. So it keeps me in check. So I hope you guys are liking these. I'm going to try to do them every day. Like I said, I got a commitment, an oath that I've tried to take, and we're at day 8. This is day 8, so we're starting the second week, and I've even took it up a notch, and instead of 8 minutes, I'm going to try to go 30. And so just like, comment, share, give me some thoughts on what you want to hear, what you want to see in these vlogs, what kind of philosophies, because I have a ton. It's just sometimes I don't think of them all. So you guys help me, help you, help us. Yeah, that was pretty good, wasn't it? But alright, well, I'm Urban Norseman, and I'll see you in the next vlog.